And here they were, talking with this absolute self-confidence in India, with 200 million people seething underneath them, whose selves and aspirations conflicted with each other and with the demands of their rulers. Their administration, civil and military, the administration, civil and military, was extraordinarily efficient. It could never have been so without that self-confidence. In contrast to the reports of Woodbrook, the Indian servants were efficient too, though they needed constant supervision. And all the bungalows that Ivy stayed in were perfectly appointed. Windows, doors, punkahs worked as they should. Gardens and tennis courts were beautifully kept. Sometimes at night, one or two of the men who sat outside the bedrooms pulling ropes that kept the punkahs moving would doze off. They would wake up when the soft flapping sound stopped and the still air in the room grew stifling. Then she'd hear a shout from another bedroom, a movement in the corridor outside, and the fanning motion would begin again. She never learned to shout. Her first spell of freedom came when her father went away on manoeuvres and allowed her to stay for her safety with Billy and his wife. Billy was married to a painter, a pretty girl called Petta, with coppery hair, big eyes, and a beautiful wide mouth, who soon became one of her closest friends. They were both in their early 20s, and all their friends were young. The weight of authority was lifted, and they whirled Ivy with them through weeks of reckless activity that seemed to be over as soon as they began. Billy often spoke to his elder brother, Charles, talking about him as though he were a twin. They had never been separated until they came to India, but then Charlie had joined the 23rd Cavalry Frontier Force and was always far away. Then her father came to be stationed at Quetta, near the border of Afghanistan. Whenever he was stationed, she was stationed, and through life went on in much the same way, the constantly moving groups of English people meeting each other again and again in different centres. The climate and beauty of mountains was exhilarating. Quetta is over 5,000 feet above sea level and within sight of snow-capped peaks on every side. Charles Kirkwood's regiment was there. Hadn't we better invite the other Kirkwood? If you like, her father said, forgetting for a moment that the other Kirkwood was not married. Charles came to dinner with some other people. He was 2 years older than Billy, but really seemed like a twin. The same eyes and voice, fair hair and agile face, the same height, about 6'2". He probably was more thoughtful. The things he said at dinner were funny, but in a different way. Wiser, the idea was dispelled by some silliness. Steadier and more reliable, no one could know. Next morning at breakfast, her father said, "What did you think of Kirkwood?" And she answered lightly, "A nice man for someone to get married to." She meant nothing by that. Or thought she meant nothing. It had just come out of her mouth, so she thought. Then his thank you letter came. It was custom there, where telephones were few, to send a note of thanks by servant. But in the formal message that was something in military code, she did not need to show the letter to her father. She puzzled it out after he had gone for the day. She'd seen many things in code, and this one was simple. It said, "You don't know yet, but we are going to get married." It made her laugh all by herself on the veranda. That evening when her father came home to dinner, he asked her to sign a sheet of paper he had written on a promise not even to get engaged till she was 21. This annoyed her, but she signed it without any other qualm. The last thing she wanted was to get married. If she ever escaped to Europe, she would receive her music. She did not escape till 1914. The war began a few months after. She reached home, and the idea of studying in Germany was abandoned forever. Only part of the 23rd Cavalry was ordered to sail for France. The officers drew lots to decide who should go, and Charlie was one of the lucky ones. They thought it lucky. He had less than a year in France before his home leave was due. Ivy's father knew this and approached his commanding officer saying, "Don't give young Kirkwood leave, whatever you do. He'll only marry my daughter," which is exactly what happened. It was 1915, and she was over 21. A year later, Charlie was in a prison camp in Turkey. She did not see him again for 3 years.